Okay, I want you to picture a scenario for a second.
Go on.
You've spent, say, 2 years building a supplement brand. The branding is perfect. Influencers are all lined up. The pre-orders are just flying in. You feel like you've made it.
It's the dream.
And then, 3 weeks after launch, you get an email. A customer is in the hospital. Liver failure.
That is the absolute nightmare scenario.
Yeah.
That is the moment your business effectively ends.
And suddenly, the cool, flashy side of the business, the marketing, the packaging,
The Instagram aesthetic.
none of it matters. The only thing that matters is who actually made those pills.
Exactly. And that's why today's deep dive is going to feel a bit different. We aren't talking about the latest superfood trends or biohacking.
No, we're talking about contract manufacturing, which, I'll be honest, usually sounds like the driest topic on earth. Supply chain logistics, regulatory compliance. It sounds like homework.
It does. But based on the guide we're analyzing today, Supplement Contract Manufacturer, a comprehensive buyer's guide, this isn't just administrative work. This is high-stakes poker.
Because if you pick the wrong partner, you don't just lose a little margin. You're facing lawsuits, total recalls.
And legitimate brand destruction.
That's the core mission of this deep dive, then. We need to move you from choosing a manufacturer based on, a gut feeling.
Or worse, the cheapest price per unit.
Right. To making a forensic, data-driven decision. We're going to stop treating manufacturing like a commodity.
Like just hiring someone to mix flour and sugar.
And start treating it like a strategic marriage.
A marriage with a very strict prenup.
We will definitely get to the prenup. But first, our roadmap. We're starting with the SHIELD, the regulations that keep you out of jail. Then we'll move to the detective work, how to audit a lab and quality system. After that, the nuts and bolts of formulation. And finally, we tackle those contracts and IP protection.
It's a solid framework. Where do you want to start?
Let's start with the SHIELD, the regulations. The source material throws out some heavy acronyms right away. CGMP and DSHEA.
Of course.
For someone deep in the industry, these are standard. But for a founder trying to scale, what are we really looking at here?
So DSHEA is the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act. It's the law of the land in the U.S. And CGMP stands for Current Good Manufacturing Practices.
Okay.
But here's the critical insight from the guide. CGMP is the floor, not the ceiling.
Meaning if a manufacturer just says, hey, we're CGMP compliant, I shouldn't be impressed.
You should be relieved but not impressed. It's like a driver saying, I have a valid driver's license.
Right.
That doesn't mean they're a good driver. It just means they're legally allowed on the road. It doesn't tell you if they speed or if they text while driving.
So what does a good driver look like in this context? What's the next level up?
It all comes down to traceability. The guide emphasizes that a top-tier contract manufacturer, a CM, needs to go way beyond basic compliance. They need to provide documentation of complete batch records.
Why is the batch record so critical? Is it just for the FDA auditors or?
It's for risk management. Think about that liver failure scenario you mentioned.
Yeah.
If you don't have perfect traceability and the FDA comes knocking, you might have to recall every single bottle you sold in the last 18 months.
Because you can't prove which ones are safe. That's a total brand collapse.
Exactly. But if your CM has robust, granular batch records, you can pinpoint the issue. You can say it came from lot #402 of magnesium, which was only used in production run B on November 12th.
Ah, okay. So you're not doing a total recall.
You're performing a surgical recall of, say, 500 bottles.
Yeah.
You save the company.
That is the difference between a bad quarter and bankruptcy.
Precisely. And this leads right into what the guide calls post-market oversight.
I found this interesting because most people think manufacturing it ends when the truck leaves the loading dock.
Yeah, that's a common mistake.
Yeah.
New brands think, okay, product shipped, my job is done. But regulators and, big retailers like Walmart or Amazon, they're obsessing over what happens after the sale.
The guide mentions adverse event reporting. This is grim but practical. If a customer reports a side effect, who handles it?
Your CM needs a verified procedure for this. It's not just about taking a phone call. It's about the communication tree. Who gets notified? How fast?
Can they trace it back to the lot level?
Exactly. Can they see if something went wrong during production? It's like having a forensic team on standby.
So it's a proactive system, not just a reactive one.
It has to be.
Yeah.
There was a great quote in the source material from a consultant, Dr. Priya Natarajan. She said, a strong regulatory foundation is not a cost center, it's a competitive edge.
I love that framing because brands usually see compliance as red tape, something that just slows them down.
But her point is that if you want to get into major retail, they are going to demand this.
Yeah.
If you have your shield built, you breeze through their audits while your competitors get stuck in paperwork hell. It actually speeds up your growth.
Okay, so regulations are the baseline. Now let's put on our detective hats. Let's talk about quality systems. The guide brings up ISO 9001. My skepticism alarm always goes off with these certifications. Is ISO 9001 actually meaningful, or is it just a certificate they frame in the lobby to look fancy?
It can be window dressing if they don't live it.
Yeah?
But if it's genuinely implemented, ISO 9001 signals a mature, process-driven culture. It means they don't just wing it.
They have a process for everything.
An SOP, a standard operating procedure for everything.
Yeah.
From how they wash the blenders to how they qualify their raw material suppliers.
But how do I spot a fake? If I'm touring a factory, how do I know if they're actually following the process or just putting on a show for me?
The guide gives a very specific tool for this. It's an acronym. KPA, Corrective and Preventive Actions.
KPA. Okay, let's unpack that.
When you ask a manufacturer about their error rate, a lot of them will puff out their chests and say, we have 0 errors, we're perfect.
Which sounds great to the untrained ear.
And is a total lie to the expert ear. In manufacturing, things will break. A machine will drift out of calibration. A raw material arrives out of spec. If a partner tells you they have no errors, run away. It means they aren't looking for them, or worse, they're hiding them.
So I should actually be looking for a partner who admits they mess up. That seems counterintuitive.
You want a partner who can show you their nonconformance process. You want to see the dirty laundry. You want to hear, here is where the machine failed. Here's the Qualification report where we investigated the root cause. And here is the permanent fix we implemented so it never happens again.
That's a great mental shift. You aren't looking for perfection. You're looking for a system that improves itself.
Exactly. It's about the audit mindset. A QA director cited in the text, Elena Garcia, she noted that the best partners treat audits as opportunities to improve.
Not just compliance checkpoints.
They stay audit ready
Yeah.
every day rather than scrambling to clean up the night before the inspector shows up.
Right. If you walk in on a random Tuesday and the place is a mess, that certificate on the wall is worthless.
Totally worthless.
This feels like a good segue into the CSI portion of our deep dive, the lab.
Where science meets safety.
The guide sets a gold standard here. ISO 14025 accreditation for laboratories. But it also opens up a debate I see online all the time. In-house testing versus outsourced testing.
It's the classic trade-off in the industry.
The guide lists pros and cons for both.
In-house is faster, right?
Much faster. If the lab is down the hall from the encapsulation machine, you can test a sample and get the all clear in hours, not days. It really tightens your production loop.
But the downside is you're grading your own homework.
That's it. There is an inherent conflict of interest. Imagine a production manager under pressure to meet a quota. He walks into the lab and says, hey, this batch is just slightly off spec, but we really need to ship it.
You can see the pressure that creates.
So outsourced is better because it's objective. They're a disinterested third party. They don't care about your production quotas.
But it's slower and probably more expensive.
Usually, yes.
So what's the verdict? What should a buyer look for? The guide suggests that if you go with a CM who does in-house testing, you need rigorous oversight. You need clear SLA service level agreements. And, crucially, you need to perform random checkups.
Trust, but verify.
Always. Send a duplicate sample to a third-party lab occasionally just to verify their results. And this brings us to the most terrifying part of the lab section for me, data integrity.
Yeah, I saw the acronym LIMS Laboratory Information Management System and the term chain of custody.
A lab systems expert, Dr. Marcus Lee, is quoted here saying that data integrity is the core of trust. And here's the reality. If I can log into the lab computer and change a failing test result to a passing one without leaving a digital footprint.
The entire system is broken. You could just delete the failure.
In a bad system, yes. That's why you need a LINGS that is 21 CFR Part 11 compliant. That's the FDA rule on electronic records. It creates an uneditable audit trail.
So if someone changes a value,
The system records who changed it, when, and why. There's no hiding.
so when you're auditing a partner, don't just look at the shiny beakers. Ask about their software security.
Ask to see the audit trail. Ask them to show you the history of a specific test. They look confused or say, ooh, the system doesn't do that. That is a massive red flag.
Okay, we've covered the rules and the testing. Let's talk about actually making the product. The nuts and bolts.
The formulation science.
The guide makes a point that formulation is not just following a recipe. I think a lot of people assume it's like baking a cake, throw the powder in, mix it up.
It is so much more complex, mainly because of chemistry. The guide highlights compatibility screenings. Some ingredients they hate each other.
Meaning?
They might be fine when you mix them, but 3 months later, they've reacted and turned into a brown sludge inside the capsule. Or they've neutralized each other.
So the customer gets zero benefit.
Exactly. This is why stability testing is non-negotiable. You can't just guess the shelf life is 2 years. You have to prove it by putting the product in chambers with high heat and humidity to accelerate aging.
It's like a time machine for the pill.
It is. And you need to know if the pill survives the trip. And then there are excipients, the inactive ingredients.
The stuff that holds the pill together.
But they aren't inactive in terms of performance. The right excipient ensures the tablet dissolves in your stomach and not in the bottle. A good CM understands this excipient selection based on the physics of your ingredients.
One trend the guide highlights here is integrated packaging. The idea that the CM handles everything: bottle, label, carton, serialization.
This is becoming the industry standard. It's all about reducing handoffs. Every time you move a product from a manufacturer to a packager to a logistics center, you introduce risk.
Risk of damage, contamination.
And risk of data loss. If one partner handles the whole chain, you get better serialization.
Lot level traceability again.
Yes. You need to know that bottle #5048 went into carton #20, which went on pallet #5. If you have that data and there's a problem, you can isolate it instantly.
For our listeners who are doing private label, taking an existing formula and just branding it, the guide has some specific warnings.
The big one is labeling support.
Because compliance varies so much by region.
Drastically. What's a compliant health claim in the U.S. might be totally illegal in the EU or Canada. A good CM doesn't just print what you send them, they act as a consultant.
They should be telling you, hey, you can't say cures cancer on this label.
Or, you can't use this specific font size for the allergen warning in Germany. If they don't offer that support, you're walking into a minefield and you'll be the one paying the fines.
Okay, let's zoom out to the supply chain. We've designed the product, we've found a partner, but where should that partner be located?
The geography question. Onshore versus offshore.
The classic dilemma. Offshore is cheaper, onshore is faster.
Well, that's the simplified view. But the guide suggests looking at total landed cost.
Which includes freight, tariffs, the cost of capital tied up in inventory sitting on a boat for 6 weeks.
Exactly. When you factor all that in, the savings from offshoring might not be as huge as you think, but the real currency here is resilience.
The guide mentioned a hybrid footprint.
That's the strategic move. You keep your critical high-turnover products close to your core market onshore or nearshore. That gives you speed. If sales spike, you can restock in days, not months.
Then you use offshore for what, raw materials?
For raw material sourcing or for stable, low-margin items where speed isn't as critical. But even then, an expert quoted in the text, Jonathan Kim, warns about single-point failure.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
You need multi-source input validation. If your one supplier for vitamin C is in a region that gets hit by a hurricane, do you have a validated backup ready to go? Or does your entire business just shut down for 3 months?
That's a business continuity plan.
It is. You aren't just buying a product. You are buying the assurance that the product will keep flowing no matter what.
All right, we've vetted the quality, we've checked the lab, we've mapped the supply chain, now we have to sign the papers. Let's talk about the prenup.
The commercial terms and IP protection.
I love this analogy because, like a marriage, everyone thinks it's going to last forever when they sign.
And in business, it rarely does. The guide is very clear. You need to define the exit strategy before you start.
What specifically needs to be in there?
Intellectual property ownership. This is the biggest friction point. If you spend 2 years developing a custom formula with a CM, and then you want to move to a different factory, who owns that recipe?
Logic says, I paid for it, I own it.
But the contract might say, we used our proprietary process to develop this, so we own it. And suddenly you are held hostage. You can't leave without leaving your product behind.
So the contract must clearly define client-owned IP upon termination.
Yes. And as Dr. Sophia Nguyen notes in the guide, you need strict NDAs to prevent them from reverse engineering your product and selling a generic version to your competitor.
That's nasty, but I assume it happens.
More often than you'd think. Protecting your know-how is just as important as protecting the physical product.
The guide also gives some great tactical advice. It basically says, stop emailing asking for a quote.
Please, stop doing that. If you just ask, how much for 10,000 bottles? It's in a meaningless number. You need a standardized RFP, a request for proposal.
A template that forces every manufacturer to answer the same questions?
Exactly. You want to compare apples to apples. You should be using scorecards. Grade them objectively. 20 points for their quality system, 20 for their lab, 10 for pricing.
Remove the emotion.
Completely. If you just go with the person you like best at the trade show, you are setting yourself up for failure.
And finally, the concept of dating before marriage, the pilot program.
Never rush into full-scale production with a new partner, ever. Run a small pilot batch first.
What are we looking for in the pilot? Is it just the product quality?
No, we are testing the relationship. Did they hit the deadline? Did they communicate clearly? If something went wrong, and on a pilot, it usually does, how did they handle it? Did they hide it, or did they call you with a solution?
It validates the partnership before you're legally married to 100,000 units.
Precisely. It's a low-risk stress test. If they fail the pilot, you walk away.
So, pulling all of this together, we've covered a massive amount of ground here.
We have.
We started with the regulatory shield, understanding CGMP is the starting line, not the finish. We moved to the quality detective work, looking for KPA histories and treating audits as opportunities.
Then we went into the lab CSI style, emphasizing data integrity and the chain of custody. If the data isn't secure, the test results are meaningless.
Right. We discussed the physical product formulation science, stability testing, integrated packaging. We looked at the supply chain, and finally, the ironclad contracts.
It's a comprehensive framework. And if you look at where the industry is heading, the future is really about two things: integrated services and data transparency.
Tell me more about that.
The days of the black box manufacturer are over. Brands and retailers are demanding real-time visibility. They want to see the data. They want serialization. They want to know exactly where every single molecule came from.
Transparency is the new currency of trust.
It is, but
I want to leave you with a provocative thought based on this trend toward integrated services. We talked about how convenient it is to have one partner handle everything: formulation, manufacturing, packaging, labeling. It's fast. It's efficient.
it is very efficient.
But does it come at a cost? If you choose a partner who handles absolutely everything, do you lose those independent checks and balances? If the same entity formulating the product is also testing it and packaging it, is convenience worth the potential risk of, say, brokered accountability?
That is the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And is why independent third-party testing remains so vital, even with an integrated partner.
Yeah.
You can outsource the work, but you can never outsource the responsibility.
Something for you to mull over as you draft that RFP. Don't settle for a gut feeling. Demand the data.
Absolutely. Dig deep.
Thanks for listening to this deep dive. Go out there and build something great and safe.
Take care.